Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my WWE NXT UK reviews for episode 13 and 14, and these episodes aired on December 5th, 2018. And I'm going to structure these reviews the same way I've structured my other two, where I'm going to watch each episode separately, and after I watch each one, I'll review them, and then I'll edit it all into a big video. So there's that. I'm really excited to watch this one. I don't know anything that's been announced ahead of time or anything like that because they just crowned the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion. But I'm still really excited to watch it. I like to watch NXT UK, so I'm just gonna start the video and see how they are. Okay, so on to the actual show itself. We had Nigel McGuinness and Vic Joseph on commentary for this show, and the show opens up with Wolfgang and the Coffee Brothers coming out to cut a promo, and they pretty much come out and talk about how since NXT UK has started, they have been the ones that have been the dominant and the ruthless group in the NXT UK roster, and they've um, brought fear upon everybody that they've come in contact with, and they finally named their group. They're going to be named Gallus, which is British slang for competent. And they talk about how British strong style doesn't stand a chance against them because they last week when they were looking at British strong style, they saw and smelt fear. And that was pretty much the segment. I really like this promo, though. I thought it was really good. I should mention, too, that now the NXT UK tapings are taking place in Plymouth, England, which I think is kind of cool. And then Travis Banks makes his return to NXT UK. We haven't seen him since, I think, episode 3. And he has a face-off with Gallus, and Joe Coffey challenges him to come down to the ring and for a fight, and Travis Banks does, and they get into a fight. However, the other members of Gallus triple team him, and the numbers game catches up to Travis Banks. However, Mustache Mountain runs out to make the save, and they fight off Gallus, and then that was pretty much the end of the segment. We did find out later that Johnny Saint tweeted out that on the next episode of NXT UK, Travis Banks is going to go one-on-one with Wolfgang, which I'm really looking forward to that match. I think that would be a really good match. But I thought this was a really good opening segment here. I thought it was something different. They normally kick off with a match, but I thought it was something different to do a segment. I thought it made sense since Gallus, I've been running roughshod for weeks. And I liked it. I thought it was really good. And then Fabian Eichner gets interviewed, and he talks about how he's been in NXT for a little while now, but he wants to come to NXT UK and go up against the best in the world, and that's exactly what he's here to do. So I thought that was a good interview. I think it's really cool that Fabian Eichner is going to be a part of this. So yeah. And then Jordan Devlin gets interviewed, and he talks about how he took the NXT UK champion to the limit, and he talks about his match coming up with Flash Morgan Webster and says that to him, if it's like a deck of cards, Flash Morgan Webster is just the Joker, but he is the ace, and nobody ever bets against the ace in NXT UK. The ace crushes all. I actually thought he cut a good promo. I think Jordan Devlin just overall improved because I remember when he originally came in, he was very green, but now I think he's a lot better. Then you had the next match. It was Fabian Eichner versus Mark Andrews. I thought this was easily the match of the night. I don't know why they didn't put this in the main event, but I thought this was a really good match. And some spots I remember was Fabian Eichner ends up hitting a pop-up backbreaker onto Mark Andrews, which I thought looked cool. Mark Andrews hits a really cool moonsault on the outside. He hits a corkscrew senton onto Fabian Eichner, which was cool. Fabian Eichner goes for a powerbomb, but Mark Andrews counters it into a Hurricanrana and nearly beats Fabian Eichner. Fabian Eichner hits a brainbuster. Mark Andrews kicks out of that. Mark Andrews hits the Stun Dog Millionaire. Fabian Eichner hits a clothesline. Fabian Eichner hits a really cool arm drag off the top turnbuckle. He hits a really cool big boot. Mark Andrews has a really cool dive on the outside. He hits the 180, which is like a roll up into a stomp, which was really awesome. And I just thought these guys went out there and absolutely tore the house down. But then eventually something starts to change in Fabian Eichner. He goes up to the outside and he throws Mark Andrews into the steps, and then he hits a running double knees into the steps, sending Mark Andrews crashing head first into the steps, and then Mark Andrews nearly gets counted out, but he just beats the 10 count, getting into the win, and then Fabian Eichner hits a twisting or a spinning powerbomb on him for the win, and Fabian Eichner gets the victory over Mark Andrews. I didn't see this coming. I thought Mark Andrews actually easily was going to get the win, but with the way the match went down, it could have gone either way. And I like the way they did this finish. Even afterwards, Fabian Eichner gets interviewed and says that he's willing to do whatever it takes to beat the best in the world in NXT UK. And I kind of like this. I think Fabian Eichner can be a really cool heel in NXT UK, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for him. He's looked very impressive on the regular episodes of NXT, so I'm really excited about this. But I thought this was a really good match, and I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the way the finish played out. I imagine that this is going to lead to a feud, and if not, then Fabian Eichner maybe will get an NXT UK Championship match before NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool, but we'll have to wait and see. Then it shows a vignette for Isla Dawn, which was a really cool vignette. Then Johnny Saint gets interviewed, and he says that he's had a lot on his plate in NXT UK, and he needs help running it. So he introduces his assistant, his personal assistant, Sid Scala, which I thought was kind of funny. I think it's nice that Sid Scala is going to get an opportunity. And Sid Scala, talks about what the future is going to be for NXT UK. Then Rhea Ripley comes out and is upset that she's not being talked about since she became the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion, and she wants him to find an opponent for her to defend her NXT UK Women's Championship against, and that was pretty much it. I thought it was a good backstage segment, though. I enjoyed it. Then you had Nina Samuels versus Isla Dawn. This match was fine, though, but it was very sloppy in places. But Isla Dawn wins with the suplex, but I really like Isla Dawn's gimmick. I don't know what it was. It just didn't really seem like these women really worked together all that well, but I still thought it was a fine match. It got what you needed out of it. And then we had a Toni Storm update after her match with Rhea Ripley, because apparently she injured her back in this match, which was legit. And she said that this injury lights a fire under her to become the best NXT UK Women's Champion in history. So I actually thought it was something different. I thought it was something nice that they did, and I really like the way they did it. It lights a fire under Toni Storm to want to come back and win that NXT UK Women's Championship. Then we had Tucker versus Eddie Dennis. This pretty much was a squash match. Eddie Dennis hits the Razor's Edge into the Razor's Edge buckle bomb into the neck breaker driver for the win, which I think makes sense because you want to continue to build up Eddie Dennis, so I thought this was fine. Then you had the main event, Flash Morgan Webster versus Jordan Devlin. I thought this was a pretty good main event here. Flash Morgan Webster gets the upper hand on Jordan Devlin throughout the beginning of the match, I should say. And then Jordan Devlin hits a backstabber out of the ropes onto Flash Morgan Webster. And Flash Morgan Webster throughout the rest of the matchup targets the back. I'm sorry, not Flash Morgan Webster. Jordan Devlin targets the back of Flash Morgan Webster throughout the rest of the matchup. But then Flash Morgan Webster makes his comeback. He hits a really cool running knee strike onto Jordan Devlin that I thought was cool. He goes for his finish, but he's unable to do it because of his back. And then Flash Morgan Webster hit a drop kick on the outside. He hits a flip dive off the steps, which hurt his back again, and then he went for the corkscrew moonsault, but Jordan Devlin got his knees up, and Jordan Devlin hit his finisher, which is the Irish call, which is the fireman's carry into like a Michinoku driver. But Jordan Devlin gets the win, and what I thought was a pretty good main event. And then afterwards, on the WWE.com, he does he gloats saying that you never bet against the Ace. So there was that again, and that was pretty much NXT UK episode 13. And overall, I thought this was a good episode. I think it's the weakest episode that they've done, but I still thought it was a good episode. It was very close to being like a really good episode. I think if we had one more, because I enjoyed everything that was on it, but it wasn't just quite a really good episode, but I still thought it was good. If probably if Flash Morgan Webster and Jordan Devlin had a little bit more time to have like a really good match, it would have been a really good episode. Because that's what kind of sucked about the match, is right when the match started to get really good, it was over. But I enjoyed everything on it. I liked what they did with Gallus and Mustache Mountain and Tucker and Travis Banks. I almost said Tucker Knight, but that's a different brand. I like how they debuted Fabian Eichner. I liked the Jordan Devlin Flash Morgan match, and I liked everything they did with the women's on this show, and I liked how they featured Eddie Dennis. So overall, I would say this was a good episode. I'm going to give it a B minus, and that's pretty much my review of this episode. Now I'm going to watch episode 14, and then give you guys my review of that. Okay, so now we have episode 14 that aired on the same day. The show starts off with Joseph Connors versus Dan Maloney. I thought they had a solid match here. It was pretty much just to put over, though, Joseph Connors. And I see a lot of potential in Joseph Connors. I hope they do some big things with him in NXT UK, because I just think he has it all. He had a really cool sunset flip buckle bomb into the corner, which is something I've never seen before. I thought that was awesome. And then right afterwards, he hits Don't Look Down on Dan Maloney for the win. And yeah, I thought that was awesome. Then Isla Dawn gets interviewed, and she pretty much says that she wants to be the NXT UK Women's Champion, and, you know, talks about kind of like a gimmick a little bit. And Rhea Ripley comes out and doesn't think that she's legitimate competition to her, and wants Isla Dawn to watch her match with her selected opponent. What I found kind of funny about this is I think this is why a lot of people had thought that it was going to be Isla Dawn versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT UK Women's Championship at Evolution. It's because they did this segment, and they're probably going to do the match instead at NXT UK Takeover Blackpool. But yeah, I thought this was I thought it was a good backstage segment, though. Good way to set up that match. And then Mustache Mountain's backstage, and Gallus wants to go at it with him, but everybody, included Sid Scala and Johnny Saint, has to hold them back. So I thought that was a good way to put over that feud. Then we had Mike Hitchman versus Dave Mastiff. I thought this was a good match here. Dave Mastiff obviously overpowers Mike Hitchman since he's a lot bigger, but eventually Mike Hitchman drop kicks Dave Mastiff in the knee, and he hits a senton on him right across the back of his neck, and he dominates the matchup for a bit, but then Dave Mastiff makes a comeback. But then Mike Hitchman hits a drop kick, and he goes for the senton again, but Dave Mastiff drop kicks him in the knee, and then he hits the running drop kick into the cannonball in the corner for the win. And that was that. I actually thought this was a good match here, though. I thought Mike Hitchman looked pretty strong, and I hope that they find something from Mike Hitchman eventually, because I actually think he's pretty talented. And I like the way, like, he just looks crazy, too. And then Dave Mastiff gets interviewed, and he said that pretty much the sky's the limit for him. He's going to go straight to the top in NXT UK, and he pretty much puts over Mike Hitchman at the end. And we see, like, this person watching from behind, and when Dave Mastiff walks away, we find out that it's Eddie Dennis. So they're probably leading to a match between them, because they're both undefeated in NXT UK, so I'm all right with that. Then we had Tyson T-Bone versus Ligero. I actually thought this was a good match here, but I think that mainly had to do with Ligero. I think Tyson T-Bone's an all-right wrestler. He was very green in the beginning, and I think the more he practices and stuff, maybe he can get better. But I think he's just all right now. But I think Ligero got probably the best match out of him you can get at the moment. Um, Ligero tries to use a lot of his high-speed offense to stay away from Tyson T-Bone, but then eventually Tyson T-Bone takes his head off with a clothesline. He beats him up on the outside and does like his boxing stance. He throws him into the steps. He dominates him for a while, but then Ligero starts to mount a comeback. Hits a really cool suicide dive on the outside, and then eventually Tyson T-Bone hits three running attacks into the corner, one in wash, and one like running knee strike, but Ligero kicks out, and then Tyson T-Bone goes to knock him out, but then Ligero ducks it, hits um, a flip off the apron, and then he hits a springboard splash for the win. Which I don't know why he didn't move to Tornado DDT. I thought that would have made more sense, but I still like the finish of the matchup. And I actually thought it was a good match, though. I hope they. And what I'm kind of thinking about is I kind of hope they do Joseph Connors versus Ligero um, at NXT UK Takeover Blackpool, because I think that would be a really good match to do. But they're probably like trying to think about the card's probably already out, but if I could do one of the matches, that would be a match I would really like to see, and the winner gets like a future NXT UK Championship match or something. I think that'd be awesome. And then it shows a video package of Rhea Ripley, everything that she's ever done in WWE, mainly in NXT UK. And then Rhea Ripley cuts a promo and talks about how she won the NXT UK Women's Championship. And she's all about opportunities because she had opportunities and it helped her out tremendously. So she gave somebody an opportunity, and it was none other than Candy Floss, an opponent that she just handpicked, which everybody I think had known with this opponent that she was going to easily win. And that's pretty much what happened. Rhea Ripley wins with the Riptide. And that was that. But I actually thought this was nice, and then afterwards, Rhea Ripley acts like she's showing respect to her, but then instead just beats the absolute crap out of her and throws her into the post, and then that was that. But I like this, though. I thought it made Rhea Ripley look like a really good heel, and I thought it was nice. And then Sid Scala and Johnny Saint make some announcements. They announced that on the next episode of NXT UK, it's going to be Trent Seven versus Joe Coffey, and they're also going to make the announcement about what's going to happen with the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. They're going to make an announcement about that, so I thought that was fine. And then I actually jumped ahead. The next segment after the Rhea Ripley thing was actually Flash Morgan Webster get interviewed, and he talks about his big win that he had like not that long ago when he teamed up with Mark Andrews, and then he runs into Fabian Eichner, and he doesn't really appreciate the way that Fabian Eichner took out Mark Andrews, so Fabian Eichner challenges him to do something about it. Flash Morgan Webster accepts his challenge, so on the next episode of NXT UK, it's going to be Flash Morgan Webster versus Fabian Eichner. I think that's going to be a really good match, and I actually can't wait to see that match. Then we had the main event. It was Wolfgang with the Coffee Brothers versus Travis Banks. I thought this was a pretty good match, but I thought this match was kind of rushed. I thought they could have done a longer match, and it was really weird because NXT UK was shortened on this episode because the previous episode was like 59 minutes, but this episode was only 52 minutes, so I don't really understand what happened with that, but I thought it was a pretty good match. Travis Banks hit a lot of nice moves, like the suicide dive on the outside, the double stomp right across the back, the double stomp off the apron on the floor, but Wolfgang targeted the shoulder a lot of Travis Banks. But then eventually the Coffee Brothers keep interfering, so this brings out Mustache Mountain. They get into a fight with them, and Travis Banks hits a suicide dive on them on the outside. And then eventually, behind the referee's back, Trent Seven trips Wolfgang's leg, and this leads to Travis Banks winning. And Travis Banks and Mustache Mountain escaped, and that was pretty much the end of the show. I actually like the way they did this main event segment because Gallus, for months, have been laying everybody out. I don't think this hurts them at all losing. And this was Travis Banks' return to NXT. You really couldn't have him lose because the last time we saw him, he had made it to the finals of the United Kingdom Championship Tournament in 2018. So I actually thought it made sense for them to do this finish. And I totally expect on the next episode Joe Coffey to beat Trent Seven, so that way, Gallus won't look too bad coming off of this. But I actually like the way they did all this. And that was pretty much NXT UK for episode 14. And then they did some interview segments with Candy Floss and Rhea Ripley, where Candy Floss talks about how, not to trust everybody at first, because not a lot of people seem, who they are and stuff like that. And Rhea Ripley saying that everybody won because they got to see you wrestle. So that was that. But I thought that was episode 14 of NXT UK. I actually thought this was a really good episode. I really liked everything that they did. I thought it had some good matches, and I actually thought he did a good job, setting stuff up for the next few episodes. So I really liked this. I thought it was a really good episode. I'm going to give it a B. And that's pretty much the end of this review. So if you guys want to know which episode I enjoyed more, I enjoyed episode 14 over 13. And that's pretty much the end of the video, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time I upload a video, you guys get the notifications for it. And make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers and No One Talking to YouTube channels. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.